you've remarked about is that there is a sense among your audience and in the broader sense, I suppose, young people, very broadly defined, about engagement and social consciousness, and seeing a real activity in that regard. Do you see that in audiences around the world? That young people engaging in a way that perhaps you had not experienced previously?
Absolutely. I mean, I think people have a voice in a way that they've never had before. I think that, when a kid in a small town or a small village somewhere in the world can send a tweet or post something and it catches fire and goes viral and it changes the way that we see things, I think that's incredibly empowering. And, you get that sense that the world is a little bit more connected, that it's a slightly smaller place. And it's a beautiful thing. I mean, I think that the good part of all of that, of social media, of technology, is that it has allowed people to find and get in touch with, parts of themselves and parts of other people, to kind of dive into culture and subculture and explore nuances and niches that they haven't been able to before.
Yeah.
Is it niche or niche?
Niche. Well, niche.
Niche.
But in plural, I'm a little uncomfortable saying niches.
Yeah.
It sounds like something you order off a menu in a French
I think
restaurant.
in Louisiana we just say niche.
Yeah. I'll have the niches, please. Let's talk about the record for a minute.
Yeah.
You've talked about how this feels like your first album. Why? At this point?
Probably just because I take so fucking long in between albums. It always feels like the first time, you know what I mean?
Well, this one's been 5 years. It's been 5 years since the last.
It has been 5 years, and that is maybe about 6 months or so longer than usual. I don't know if anyone's ever been signed since 1998 and only put out 5 albums. Us and Pink Floyd, Pink Floyd put a lot of albums actually. Maybe Tool or something like that.
No, Tool for sure.
Tool's gone longer than us.
13 years ago.
Okay, they have to be.
Yeah.
But there's like a kid who's alive and already gone through 2 musical styles. And today,
But also, it's not like you chose some small topic. I mean, you named it America.
I know, narcissistic tendencies, like overreaching, egomaniac. But how could you not? I mean, the thing about it is, there are songs like Walk on Water that are overtly political, but there are also songs that are overtly personal. Songs that are, social commentary, or songs that, like my brother wrote a song called Remedy, that's like beautifully, heartbreakingly honest and revealing.
Yeah.
3 things or 4 things that I'm usually not. But and other songs like Great Wide Open that speak to that kind of feeling when you're driving, to Joshua Tree at night and the stars are out or something. That kind of nostalgia, that freedom and that sense of adventure.
Yeah. There's the idea of America as a through line for the album. That's obviously there's a lot of directions to go there, and what you did with the covers and the campaign. Tell me about kind of the concept behind that, in terms of using different covers and the images.
Yeah, I spoke to one of the world's best graphic artists. And I don't want to butcher his name. Is it Peter Saville or Seville? Peter Saville? Anybody? Peter Saville?
I want to say Seville, but
yeah.
I couldn't.
But he Can you look that up, because it's going to bother me? Somebody on your phone.
Yeah, there are people
Kenneth?
Googling as we speak.
Thank you. But I spoke. He's actually one of my heroes. Yeah, I was an art school student, and I did study graphic design. And he was a hero. I mean, he did the Joy Division covers.
Yeah.
He did the Factory Records, all that artwork.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So this guy's like one of the best, and he did all the New Order albums, which are incredible. You know, and still continues. Petersville.
You're right. Yeah.
Thank you. Sometimes you wonder if it's still working, but so anyway, I talked to him on the phone, which was just kind of a thrill to talk to him on the phone. You know, even if he says no, you're like,
yeah, cool. I talked
he said no to me.
I talked to him.
It's really cool. But he told me something. I mean, really prescient. He said. I told him the name, and first of all, he wasn't interested. And he basically on the phone to me like, look, I'm retired. I'm not taking on, you know, projects. I just got the call from the singer of the Killers, and I'm just not doing anything right now. And I was like, this guy. So I said, well, okay, I've got a creative challenge for you, and it's a really big problem. It's probably one of the biggest problems you could have. Is the name of the album is so loaded. You know, it's an intense and loaded creative challenge. And he said, well, what's the name? And I told him, and it was like silence for a minute. I'm sitting on the phone. And he goes, well, you'll never find an image for that. And he was right.
Yeah.
But he also wanted to do it, so it was kind of cool. And it didn't work out timing-wise, but he said, you'll never find an image for that, but I still searched because I'm stubborn. And what does he know? He's only the greatest in the world. But there we are, like a couple of months later, and we decide to, we're kind of riffing on ideas, and we decide to go with this series of lists. Did anybody see these lists?
Yes.
They're kind of, you know, made up of, some lists are bizarre, some are provocative, like the list of the 5 most searched sex positions on Google, or maybe it's the most searched something else. Most popular sex positions, that's it. Sometimes that's the same, often it's not.
You know, I'm learning new things every day.
You know, but there was one called The Crab that stumped even me. Some of you are adventurers out there that are laughing hard. And then there are other lists that were like the ingredients for American apple pie. Some were that were the most profitable companies in America, things like that. But what I loved about the lists is, and we created a ton of them. I did maybe 100 of them myself. So it was really fun, lots of research, and I seem to always want to make a lot of work for myself, which is, I don't know why that is. I envy people that can just sit around and take selfies and sing, and they sound like angels, and their songs just are, you know, a billion streams. But it always seems to be a bit more of a process for me. But what I did like is it taught me a lot. It was really fun to make the lists, and they're kind of like a time capsule. Like if we look at those lists 20 years from now, 100 years from now, we'll pretty much know what time we were in and what the state of the country was because of the series that we created.
Right.
Yeah.
You, in connection with this record, I think you mentioned talking about pop music and the idea of pop music being brave.
Yeah.
What is it about pop music, especially today, that
You mean that I spoke to that?
Yes.
I said that, yeah.
Yeah, that you believe is brave. I find that fascinating.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think what's not brave is grabbing a guitar, bass, and drums, and then pulling out your dad's album and just making no attempt to further and just to copy what's there. That's not brave.
Yeah.
That's a learning cycle, and that's how you can start off. It's not bravery. Bravery is being a kid who doesn't even know how to use a computer, plugging it in and sharing part of who he is, and changing the world, maybe. But I think brave, well, my point is brave is evolution. It's not like I'm anti-guitar. I still play guitar. I like the guitar and I like rock music. But I do think that there's a redundancy that was happening for so long. I think it's okay that rock music has become marginalized, deservedly so. Someone needs to come along like Kurt Cobain and knock the wind out of whatever is in rock music and change the face of things. I think it's probably going to happen in a different format. It'll probably happen hip hop or pop. But what I was saying too about pop is, if you listen to a lot of pop music, a lot of times there's like 3 instruments going on.
Yeah.
It's
minimal.
That's brave, and that's hard to do. As a songwriter, I don't know how many songwriters we have here tonight, but doing less is much harder than doing more.
Is that something that you strive for in writing this record? Was that in the back of your mind?
No, not pop music as a target, no, but simplicity.
Simplicity.
Yeah, get out of the way of the song.
Yeah.
Like, nothing makes me happier than a song that comes in at like 3 minutes. I like that. I mean, I used to want to write songs that came in at 13 minutes. And I did, and that was cool. But now I'm more interested in connectivity and really communicating. And it took me years to figure out, like, I could make an esoteric kind of left of field album. I could have a band like that, a project. My brother we both like that kind of music. I mean, whether it's Pink Floyd or Radiohead or whatever your favorite band is that goes slightly left. I mean, we love that. Sigur Rós is one of my favorite bands. Aphex Twin, I love. But I guess what motivates me to make music is the opportunity to connect in a really deep and meaningful way.
Do you think on this record in particular that you took chances, that this is your 5th album, that you would not have taken on previous
I
records?
think so. I think not making a Xerox copy of This Is War or A Beautiful Lie is probably, that would have been the safest route. But my brother and I, we've always been eager to just follow our gut and our heart. And I should clarify too. I don't mean that you can't connect deeply and with Miles Davis connects deeply. But what I mean is when I'm standing on stage, and the energy that the songs provide, the when they're concise and they're directed and there's no fat. That's what I'm talking about.
You took some very interesting paths along the way in terms of the America album and kind of the interaction with the audience. This July 4th film that you made. This is not the kind of thing that you decide on July 1st. We're going to do this on July 4th. In terms of getting people to show, to demonstrate their American reality. It's a super interesting concept. Talk a little bit about how you got that together.
Well, growing up with bands like Led Zeppelin or Pink Floyd, who I always felt it was more about music. It was more than music. Whether it was films or the artwork or the concerts, the production, it felt like they were reaching for more than just here's a pop song. That's what I actually don't like about pop, is that it can be two-dimensional, and that there isn't a kind of anyway. What was I asked to talk about?
The film, the July 4th project.
I took an ibuprofen today. That's a lot for me.
Getting that together in terms of
July 4th. Concept. So when we've always made albums, we've looked for other creative opportunities. I remember there was one album we put out. We did 2,000 different album covers, and we collected them off of the internet. And this was at a time. This was, I think, maybe when Twitter just was This Is War album, 2009, right when Twitter came out. And these kind of, social, collaboration was at its infancy. It was really hard to do some of that stuff, but I think, we've always been interested in creating really interesting, exciting experiments for ourselves and for our audience. And this time we decided to make a film. Like you said earlier, you're talking about, what you learn traveling around the world, what you learn traveling around the country is that, you know, this is a really fascinating place. And I felt like it was a really important and really great time to take advantage of the opportunity to turn the camera on ourselves as a nation and to create a portrait of who we are. That's what we did.
Of the pieces that you got, what stands out for you?
Well, we had a few weeks of pre-production, and we hired a bunch of producers. We sent 92 crews out all over the country to shoot in every single state, plus Puerto Rico and DC. Can't leave them out.
Of course not.
And then we also had over 10,000 submissions from people all over the country. So we're buried in footage. But before, I had a lot of things that I wanted to shoot. I knew I wanted to shoot the birth of a child, film as many births as we could, and we thought that we would get some crowd submissions, but we found someone that was willing to let us film, which is a very funny story. I'll tell you in a second if you remind me about that. I knew I wanted to capture someone passing on. You know, what would happen in a single day. I wanted to follow Trump as much as possible. We wanted to explore like the opiate crisis. We wanted to explore both, you know, the far right, the alt left. We wanted to kind of dig into everything, and I was really intent on not creating an apolitical film.
Right.
You know, something that looked at all sides, at all people, so that we could truly examine who we are. And we have a cut of the film. It's about 75 minutes long, and we just submitted it to Sundance. So keep your fingers crossed. Maybe we'll get it.
Well, you can bring it back on screen here.
Yeah, we'll do that. You know, if it's too good for Sundance, we'll
We'll bring it to the Grammy Museum.
we'll just, you know.